Okay, so let's offer our respects to Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Okay, so what did we see in the previous class?
Okay, see my notes. Let me check my notes. About Krishna creating the Varnashram system.
Yes, Krishna says he has created the Varnashram system. He has divided the entire human society in 4 Varnas and 4 Ashramas. Based on which 2 factors?
Guna and Karma.
Guna and Karma, exactly. Guna means?
Nature or nature.
Yeah. And Karma means?
Reaction.
Activity. So karma in this sense means activity. The word karma has different meanings. So when he says he is divided the society based on guna and karma, it means based on one's nature and one's activities. So he doesn't say that he has made this division based on janma or birth. Okay. And we saw some examples where some people were they were born in a Brahmanical family, but they got a D grade because of their activities. And other examples where people were born in a Shudra family, but they have upgraded themselves. So what examples did we see of upgradation and degradation?
Parshurama.
Parshuram, yes, very nice.
He
What
was
else?
Brahmana, and he indulged into activity of Kshatriya.
Correct. Exactly.
Vishwamitra was a Kshatriya, but then he turned into a Brahmana.
Yes, very nice. What other examples we saw?
Valmiki.
Valmiki, yes.
Was a dacoit, and then he got converted into a Brahmana.
Ratnakar to
Yes.
Valmiki.
Yes, from Ratnakar to Valmiki, very nice. What else?
Was it?
And Mrigari.
Yes, Mrigari the hunter, no? From being a hunter, a ruthless hunter, he became a great devotee. Okay, then what are the examples?
The very famous Ravana, no?
Oh, yes, Ravana. How can we miss Ravana? So Ravan was born in a what kind of a family?
Brahman.
Brahman family.
Yes, Ravan was born in a Brahmin family, but by his activities, he was not considered to be Brahmanical, right? Because of his sinful activities. So Ravan, I mean, Lord Ram, he considered Ravan to be a Brahmin, or he considered him to be a demon.
Who?
Lord Ram.
Brahman.
Lord Ram considered Ravan to be a demon, or he considered him to be a Brahmin.
Brahman.
Brahmin.
Okay, so would Lord Ramachandra kill a Brahmin?
No.
So then what did he consider him as?
Demon. A demon.
Demon, yes, because Krishna says in the Gita, no, that he comes to protect his devotees and to vanquish the demons. So because he killed Ravan, he vanquished him. He saw Ravan as a demon. But still, see, we have that mantra. When we offer prayers, no, there is one mantra. We say, Go Brahmana Hitayacha. So the Lord is the well-wisher of the goes and the Brahmins, the cows and the Brahmins. Therefore, he is not going to kill. He wouldn't have killed Ravan if he considered Ravan to be a Brahmin. He didn't see him as a Brahmin. He saw him as a demon because of his activities, and therefore he killed him. But then so can we say that Lord is the well-wisher of only the goes and the Brahmanas, and he's not the well-wisher of the demons? Can we say that he's also the well-wisher of the demon?
Also, because then he liberated Brahmana, right?
Yes, exactly. So even when the Lord kills, even then the demons benefit, right? They get liberated. Anybody who gets killed by the Lord, they attain liberation. So therefore, even the demons are getting benefited. He's also the well-wisher of the demons. Okay. Did we cover all the examples we saw? Do we have any left?
Prahlad Maharaj, we also saw.
Oh yes, Prahlad. Correct, Prahlad. From a demon family, birth in a demon family, but he elevated himself to a Vaishnava.
And Narada Muni, we saw, no? An example of Narada Muni.
Yes, Narada Muni, his mother was a maid servant in the previous life. And then in the next lifetime, he became the great sage Narada Muni. Any other examples we saw? Did we cover Vyasadeva?
Yes, we spoke about Vyasadeva.
Okay. All right. What else did we see in the previous class? So after he says that he has created, he is divided. What did Krishna say? He has divided on the basis of activities and nature. Then he says that, but I am aloof. I am away from it. Don't put me into the system, Krishna says. He says, I am not responsible for the activities that the living entities do within the Varnashram system. So Krishna says that although I have created the Varnashram system, I am not into that system. He is aloof from that system. And then he says that, again, he says that we have to follow the examples and follow in the footsteps of previous liberated souls. And then we saw this entire section on karma, vikarma, and akarma. Do you remember?
Yes.
So what is akarma, what is vikarma, and what is karma?
Karma is good things like donating to homeless people, maybe doing your homework like that. Akarma is like Krishna conscious stuff, like chanting, doing that. And then vikarma is very bad stuff, intoxication, burglary, and like that stuff.
Yes, very nice, Varun. So which of these three brings a reaction and which does not bring a reaction?
Karma and karma and vikarma bring a reaction, and akarma does not.
Yes. So vikarma brings a good or a bad reaction.
Bad.
Bad.
And what kind of a reaction does karma bring?
A good one.
So what's the problem with good karma?
You're if you do good things, you're gonna go to the heavenly planets, but that's still in the birth and death cycle. So there's still a 100% chance you're gonna die. But if you do akarma, that's very good, which means you will go to the like Vaikuntha, Goloka Vrindavan, you will go to that planetary system, and over there you just stay there forever, and it's eternal.
Okay, very nice. So what is the goal of someone who is doing karma? What is his goal?
Punya.
No, punya is the result of the activity. But what is the goal? What does he want? He wants to gratify his own senses, or he wants to gratify the Lord?
He wants to enjoy and he wants to gratify his own senses.
Exactly. So the goal in both vikarma and karma is that the person, the practitioner, wants to enjoy his own senses, gratify his own senses. Just that one is doing it within the shelter of the Shastra and the other is doing it without the shelter of the Shastra. Okay. So the act of receiving, we saw some examples on what is karma, what is vikarma, and what is karma. Does anybody remember any of the examples we saw?
Going to the school
Is
karma.
okay. Vikarma is
School is vikarma, and then going to the school and going to the temple after that is akarma.
yes, very nice. Any other examples anybody remembers? The activity of receiving money in donation is karma, akarma, or vikarma?
Karma.
Depends on where the donation is used.
Depends on where the donation is used. If I use it for my own sense gratification, then it is karma. But if I use it for Krishna conscious activity, I sponsor the temple prasad, or I use the money, depending on how much money is there, to donate a temple or to renovate a temple or to distribute Bhagavad Gitas, then it is akarma. And if I use it for funding sinful activities, then it is vikarma. So at the end of it, it's the consciousness that counts. Okay, so with that, let's begin today's session. Please repeat. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Oh yeah.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Okay, so who can volunteer to read today? Our two volunteers. Harman and Adarsh, would you all like to read today?
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Sure.
Yeah, I can read. Yeah.
Okay, so what would you like to read, Harman? The translation or the other text?
I can read the other text if
Oh.
others has no problem.
Okay, Adarsh, is it okay for you?
Yeah, fine. Yeah. I'll read translation. Yeah.
Okay, let's begin. 4.19.
सर्वे समारम्भाः कामसङ्कल्पवर्जिताः ज्ञानाग्निदग्धकर्माणं तमाहुः पण्डितं बुधाः.
Translation. One is understood to be in full knowledge, whose every endeavor is devoid of desire for sense gratification. He is said by sages to be a worker from whom the reactions of work have been burned up by the fire of perfect knowledge.
Okay, so here fire is compared to what?
The desire, sense gratification.
Okay, anybody else wants to try? Fire is compared to what?
Water.
To water? No.
Yes.
No, it's
Knowledge. Perfect knowledge.
Yes, perfect knowledge. It says that burnt up by the fire of perfect knowledge. So fire is compared to perfect knowledge. What kind of knowledge is perfect knowledge?
The sacred knowledge, like
Uh-huh.
Bhagavad Gita.
Yeah. So what is the title of chapter 4?
Transcendental.
Transcendental
Transcendental
knowledge.
knowledge.
Yes. So perfect knowledge is transcendental knowledge. The knowledge that we get in schools and colleges is not perfect knowledge. Why is that imperfect? Because it does not tell us how we can go back home, back to God. It does not tell us how we can attain the goal, ultimate goal of human life. It only tells us schools and college, the knowledge that we get there only tells us how we can make ourselves comfortable here in the material realm. So that is like they are telling us how we can move from a third class prison to a first class prison. That's all. But the point is that we are still in the prison house. Only transcendental knowledge informs us how we can come out of the prison house. Therefore, that is perfect knowledge. So fire here is compared to perfect knowledge. And just as how fire can burn everything, in the same way, perfect knowledge can burn all the reactions of our work. So somebody argues that I got this question last week that my spiritual master says that once you have committed a sin, you have committed a sin. There can be nothing that can be done about it. So here we have one verse, Shastric evidence, which says that the sins that we have committed can be burnt up by the fire of perfect knowledge. There are other ways also, but here is one Shastric evidence. Okay.
त्यक्त्वा कर्मफलासङ्गं नित्यतृप्तो निराश्रयः कर्मण्यभिप्रवृत्तोऽपि नैव किञ्चित् करोति सः.
Translation. Abandoning all attachment to the result of his activities, ever satisfied and independent, he performs no fruitive action, although engaged in all kinds of undertakings.
So here this verse is describing a person who is endeavoring for perfection, right? He is endeavoring. He is, so that's called as a sadhaka stage. And what is he endeavoring for here? The focus is on nirashraya. The focus is on detachment. He abandons all attachment to the results of his activities. So here the focus is on detachment. A person, a sadhaka, or one who's endeavoring for perfection, he detaches himself from the results of his activities. Now in the next verse in 21, Krishna describes a person who is more advanced in Krishna consciousness. He takes it a level higher in 21. Let's see.
निराशीर्यतचित्तात्मा त्यक्तसर्वपरिग्रहः शारीरं केवलं कर्म कुर्वन्नाप्नोति किल्बिषम्.
In translation, such a man of understanding acts with mind and intelligence perfectly controlled, gives up all sense of proprietorship over his possessions, and act for the bare necessity of life. Thus working, he is not affected by sinful reactions.
So 20 spoke about a sadhaka, or one who's endeavoring for perfection. 21 is speaking about a person who's highly advanced in Krishna consciousness, right? So he is called as this is the Siddha stage. So this person here, he acts only for the bare necessities of life. All he wants or he desires is to keep body and soul together. He's not endeavoring for having excess and then only detach himself. He just wants that much, which are the bare necessities for him. And he gives up all sense of proprietorship over his possessions. So he is not attached to his possessions. He is not attached to protecting what he already has. He is only greedy for Krishna's service. So Prabhupada gives the example at just as how a nut or a bolt has value to it as long as it is attached to a big machine. If there's a big machine which has many nuts and bolts, there is value to that nut and bolt only as long as it is attached to the machine. Once the nut falls off the machine, then there is no value to that nut. So in the same way, as long as we are attached to the Supreme Lord, then there is value to us, to our existence. But when we disconnect ourselves from the Lord, then there is no value to our existence. And we also need some bare necessities to keep the body and soul together. So we need some food, shelter, clothing. In the same way, the nut and the bolt also require some basic necessities. So the basic necessity is that the nut and the bolt should be oiled regularly, right? So like that, this person, highly advanced person, Krishna consciousness, only acts for the sake of bare necessities of life. 22 further describes the qualities of a highly advanced devotee.
यदृच्छालाभसन्तुष्टो द्वन्द्वातीतो विमत्सरः समः सिद्धावसिद्धौ च कृत्वापि न निबध्यते.
Translation. He who is satisfied with gain, which comes of its own accord, who is free from duality and does not envy, who is steady in both success and failure, is never entangled, although performing actions.
So again, Krishna here is describing a person how he is free from reaction. He's never entangled because he's doing a karma. So that's such a person, again, the highly advanced person, Krishna consciousness. He is satisfied with gain which comes of its own accord. So if success comes, he accepts it. If failure comes, he accepts it. He is satisfied with whatever has come on its own. He's not especially endeavoring and working hard and slogging it day and night to get success. He is free from duality. So this we have discussed how the material world is full of dualities. There is success and there is failure. There is happiness, there is distress. There is winter and summer seasons, right? So this person is free from duality. He doesn't get overexcited when there is success, and neither does he get depressed when there is failure. He does not envy. Why he does not envy? Because he is free from dualities. He is not feeling depressed when he is when in his low phase, or excited when he is doing well. So therefore, there is no question of being envious of somebody else's success, of how somebody else is doing well. Then he is steady in both success and failure. And obviously, when one is not envious, when one is free from duality, he is steady in both success and failure. And such a person, he is never entangled, although performing actions. Prabhupada gives the example of Madhavendra Puri in the purport. And Madhavendra Puri was the spiritual master of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu received initiation from Ishvara Puri, and Madhavendra Puri was a spiritual master of Ishvara Puri. And Madhavendra Puri was so highly advanced. Of course, he's a renunciate, and renunciates would go and ask for food, and whatever they get by begging, they would survive on that. And he would not even go begging to the different houses. If something came his way, if somebody gave him something, he would accept it and consume it. And if nothing came, then that day he would just fast. So there was a time when he was in Vrindavan, he was sitting under a tree, and that day he did not receive anything, and he was hungry and thirsty. And then Krishna personally took milk for him. Let's read this text.
While he was sitting beneath a tree, an unknown cowherd boy came with a pot of milk, placed it before Madhavendra Puri, and smiling addressed him as follows: "O Madhavendra Puri, please drink the milk I have brought. Why don't you beg some food to eat? What kind of meditation are you undergoing?" When he saw the beauty of that boy, Madhavendra Puri became very satisfied. Hearing his sweet words, he forgot all hunger and thirst. Madhavendra Puri said, "Who are you? Where do you reside? And how did you know that I was fasting?" The boy replied, "Sir, I am a cowherd boy, and I reside in this village. In my village, no one fasts. In this village, a person can beg food from others and thus eat. Some people drink only milk. But if a person does not ask anyone for food, I supply him all, I supply him all his eatables."
So who was this unknown cowherd boy who took milk for Madhavendra Puri?
Krishna.
Krishna, yes, of course, Krishna. And which place was this?
Vrindavan.
Vrindavan, yes, Vrindavan. So he says, I reside here, and in my village nobody fasts. So I have brought this milk for you. So even Krishna appreciated the consciousness that Madhavendra Puri had. Okay, so yeah, from this pastime, we also have to remember that the source of our maintenance is the source of our income is not the source of our maintenance. We may go for a job and receive a salary, but that doesn't mean that the boss, who is the source of our income, is also the source of our maintenance. Who is the source of our maintenance?
Krishna.
Krishna. Yes, Krishna is the source of our maintenance. There are so many animals, elephants in the forest. The elephants eat tons and tons of food. Do they go for a job and get a salary? No, but they are also being maintained in the forest, isn't it? So the source of our maintenance is Krishna. Okay.
Gata sangasya muktasya jnanavasthitacetasaha yajnaya charatah karma samagram praviliyate.
Translation. The work of a man who is unattached to the modes of material nature and who is fully situated in transcendental knowledge merges entirely into transcendence.
So such a person who is beyond all the modes of nature, there are three modes, sattva guna, rajoguna, tamoguna, mode of goodness, mode of passion, mode of ignorance. So such a person, he is beyond the three modes of material nature. He's unattached to them and he's fully situated in transcendental knowledge. So whatever activity he does it in transcendental knowledge. And because he is doing it with that knowledge, therefore he is beyond the three modes of material nature. When activity is done in the mode of goodness, again, it will bring us back. It's giving us good karma. So good karma means we have to come back. But that which is beyond the three modes of material nature is called as Shuddha Sattva stage, or the mode of transcendental goodness. So what is beyond the mode of goodness? Mode of transcendental goodness. Beyond the Sattva Guna is the Shuddha Sattva stage. And then he merges entirely into transcendence, or he attains moksha. 24.
Brahmarpanam brahmahavihi brahmagno brahmanahutam brahmaiva tena gantavyam brahma karma samadhina.
Translation. A person who is fully absorbed in Krishna consciousness is sure to attain the spiritual kingdom because of his full contribution to spiritual activities, in which the consummation is absolute and that which is offered is of the same spiritual nature.
So here with 24, Krishna is concluding his discussion on akarma. And this leads us to the next section. And here, see, Krishna is bringing in the elements of yagyas. He's saying that a person who's fully absorbed in Krishna consciousness is sure to attain the spiritual kingdom because of his full contribution to spiritual activities, in which consummation is absolute and that which is offered is of the same spiritual nature. So he's bringing in elements of yagya here, because in yagya, there is a consummation, something is being consumed, and there is a person who's offering something in the yagya kund, right? The one who's offering the ghee. So there's this person, there is an offering, and there is a consummation that is taking place. So he's bringing elements of yagya here, and therefore in the next section, Krishna is going to talk about the different kinds of yagyas. Yagya does not necessarily mean only the fire yagya. Yagya means any kind of sacrifice, and there are different ways by which one can sacrifice. Or rather, Krishna is going to talk about the principle of sacrifice, how the principle of sacrifice can be implemented in different ways. So that takes us to the next section. But before that, let us summarize what we have seen in this section. Harman?
Yeah, I just couldn't get unmuted. Main characteristic works without attachment to sense gratification 4.19. 2. Detached from fruits, acts without fruitive attachment, although engaged in all undertakings 4.20. Ever satisfied and independent 4.20. Self control, mind and intelligence fully controlled 4.21. Freedom from sense of proprietorship 4.21. Desires only bare necessities 4.21. Self-satisfaction, satisfied with whatever comes by provi- providence with no over endeavor 4.22. Freedom from duality, nothing can hamper his service 4.22. Steadiness, steady in success and failure 4.22. Freedom from envy 4.22. Detached from the modes 4.23. Fully situated in transcendental knowledge 4.23. Such kind of work merges into transcendence 4.23. Absolute quality of a sacrifice performed in Krishna consciousness has no reaction 4.24.
Okay. So does anybody have a doubt from this section?
I had a doubt. I didn't understand why I said asterisks.
Because 4.22 asterisk means this point is there in this verse. It's in verse number
Oh, okay.
22. Okay.
And what about the ones that don't have?
There I forgot to put the asterisk. So that's just
Okay.
that's my mistake.
Okay.
Okay. What else? Any other questions, doubts from this section? So the concept of karma, akarma, and vikarma is clear?
Yes.
Okay, let's proceed. Section 4, let's read this.
Section 4, verses 25 to 33. Achieving jnana through sacrifices. Karma yoga involves jnana also. By doing various kinds of sacrifices, one can eventually come to jnana.
So here, as I said, Krishna is going to talk about the different kinds of sacrifice that people do. And ultimately, what's the crux of performing all those sacrifices that one will come to the state of transcendental knowledge. Let us see this section in detail. If
Daivameva pare yajñam yoginah paryupasate Brahmagnava pare yajñam yajñenaivo vajuhvati.
Translation. Some yogis perfectly worship the demigods by offering different sacrifices to them, and some of them offer sacrifices in the fire of the Supreme Brahman.
so, see here, Krishna is talking about two categories of people. One is those who worship the demigods, and the other is those who, the impersonalists, those who believe that God is formless. So, two categories: demigod worshippers and the impersonalists. So, some yogis perfectly worship the demigods by offering different sacrifices to them. Prabhupada, in the purport, he uses the term how those who worship the demigods are Bahu Ishvara Vadis. So they believe that all of them are gods. All the devatas, they are all God. But when one reads the Bhagavad Gita, one understands the difference between God and the demigod. But a Bahu Ishwaravadi, he believes in all the gods and his faith will keep fluctuating from one to the other, depending on which devata is fulfilling his desire. So if there is somebody who is worshipping a particular devata and for some reason his desire is not getting fulfilled, then immediately he will start worshipping some other devata. And that devata which fulfills his material desire, then that becomes his favorite devata. Then after some time, if that favorite devata also stops granting him his desires, then he will switch to somebody else. So they are called as Bahu Ishvara Vadis. That's why in they have different days for worshipping different devatas. No, every Mondays are dedicated to the worship of
Shiva.
Shiva. Tuesday,
Hanuman?
Ganesha?
Ganesha?
I don't know. I don't know.
I also
Wednesday,
don't know.
Wednesday? No, Harman, you will not know because you have already received transcendental knowledge since when you were very young.
Yeah, exactly. So I don't know.
Okay, so Wednesdays. I remember that when it was on Tuesdays, my mom used to send me to the Durga temple to worship her because it was believed that when you worship Durga on Tuesdays, then you get a good husband. So she used to send me to the temple every Tuesday. So then, okay, Wednesdays.
Sai Baba or that Viral Bhagwan.
Okay.
Thursdays is Sai Baba. Sai
Okay,
Baba.
Okay, and Wednesdays then? Thursdays?
Ganesh.
Wednesday is Ganesh?
Yes.
Okay, so Thursday Sai Baba, Friday?
Lakshmi Mata.
Lakshmi Mata.
Or
Saturday?
Viral Bhagwan. Saturday Hanuman.
Saturday Hanuman.
Saturday
Oh,
Hanuman. And Shani, you're saying Komal?
Shani God. Shani God.
Shani
Also
God.
there.
Okay. Sunday?
Sunday's free day.
Free day.
Sunday is holiday, so we don't have to worship on Sundays.
Yes, holiday. No worshiping.
Okay, so that's why the karma kanda section of the Vedas, as we have discussed before, is entirely about how we can worship the demigods and get different benedictions from them. But this is not bhakti. This is not devotion, because we are not worshiping the demigod out of devotion. We are worshiping because we want something in return. In Bombay, the Siddhivinayak temple is very famous, no? So people there stand in a long queue for so many hours to have his darshan. So they stand in many hours, but when they come to Lord Ganesh, what are they asking? They are asking for material benefits, right? I have seen in the news, film stars, great big film stars also, they go to Siddhivinayak with copies of their DVDs, movies, just before the release, and they offer it to him, and they pray to him that may this movie be a big success. So they are not going there out of devotion. If I stand outside your house for 15 hours, and at the end and after 15 hours I can gain access to your house and I can meet you and I tell you, okay, please give me 10 lakh rupees, then are you going to think that I have come to meet you because I love you, or I have come there to meet you because I love myself, because I want that money for myself? See, when we pray to the Lord for our daily bread, then we love our bread more than we love the Lord. There is a difference between the two. So with what consciousness? So this entire thing of this Bahu Ishvaravadis is more to satisfy our own, is like a deal. I want something in exchange, but that is not devotion. That is not bhakti. A Vaishnava also prays to Lord Ganesh. But how does a Vaishnava pray to Lord Ganesh? He prays to Lord Ganesh saying that, oh my dear Lord Ganesh, you have scripted the Mahabharata, of which the Bhagavad Gita is a part. And therefore I am able to have some devotion to Lord Krishna. That's how a Vaishnava would pray to Lord Ganesh. Okay, now then coming to the next step, and some of them offer sacrifices in the fire of the Supreme Brahman. So here, as we discussed, this section is talking about the impersonalists. They are offering themselves or their identity in the fire of the Supreme Brahman. So here, the Supreme Brahman refers to the Brahman effulgence of the Lord. And we have seen how from Krishna, the light emanating from Krishna's body is the Brahman effulgence. And an impersonalist, they believe that God does not have a form, he is formless. And that personalities like Ram and Krishna have come from the Brahma Jyoti. So an impersonalist believes that the Brahma Jyoti is the supreme personality of Godhead, and from that Brahma Jyoti, Ram and Krishna have come. But Vaishnava understands that from Krishna comes the Brahma Jyoti and not vice versa. The word form in the dictionary, we have both the word form and formlessness in the dictionary, right? So the word formlessness is there in the dictionary because the word form is there. It's not vice versa. So from form comes formlessness. From formlessness does not come the word form. So from the form only comes formlessness. From Krishna only can come the Brahma Jyoti. Not that from the Brahma Jyoti, Krishna comes. So the impersonalists, they believe that what are they sacrificing? They are sacrificing their identity in the fire of the Brahman. So they think that by merging into the Brahman effulgence, then their identity is going to go away. But we understand from chapter 2 that the soul never loses its individuality. The soul always maintains its individuality. The soul is always an individual. It never loses its identity, right? But they think that when they merge into the Brahma Jyoti, then they are sacrificing their identity in the fire of the Brahman effulgence. So here we have in detail, Prabhupada has explained the demigod, impersonalists, and beyond them are the devotees. Let us read from left to right.
Yeah. Worshipper, demigod, impersonalist, devotee. So demigod. Sacrifices material possessions, goal, sense enjoyment in accordance with scriptural injunctions, faith in many gods, called as Bahu Ishvara Vadis, impersonalist. Sacrifices reject material possessions as Maya, sacrifices own self, material designations plus individuality. Goal, merge into Supreme Brahman through philosophical speculation. Faith, form of demigods are temporary, called as Brahmavadis. Devotee, sacrifices, uses everything in Krishna's service. Greatest sacrifice is preaching, respects and sometimes even worships demigods. Uh, dovetails, goal, satisfaction of Lord Krishna through seva. Faith, Lord Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, called as Vaishnavas.
Okay, so between a demigod worshipper and an impersonalist, who is better?
A demigod worshipper,
Demigod worship.
Why?
because he uh, at least sacrifices something and he has a goal which is better than going to the Brahman philosophical speculation.
The goal of a demigod worshipper is better than the goal of an impersonalist?
Yes.
Okay. Varun, what is your explanation? Why do you think the demigod worshippers are better than the Brahmavadis?
When you worship a demigod, the demigod is kind of like a devotee of the Lord, so you're indirectly kind of serving like a devotee of the Lord, which is like much better than not serving anyone at all.
So when one is worshipping the Brahman effulgence, what is he worshipping?
That would be an impersonalist.
Yeah, but he's worshipping an aspect of the Supreme Lord. Brahma Jyoti is an aspect of Krishna only, right?
He's worshiping a formless version.
Okay, he is worshipping a formless version, but he is still worshipping an aspect of Krishna.
But then that would come into a different category.
Yeah, category doesn't matter. What is he worshipping? So Varun is saying that a demigod worshipper worships a devotee of the Lord. And my point is, an impersonalist is worshipping the Brahma Jyoti. The Brahma Jyoti is directly an aspect of the Supreme Lord. And coming to Harman's explanation, the goal of a demigod worshipper is better than the goal of an impersonalist. The goal of a demigod worshipper is what? Sense enjoyment. The goal of an impersonalist is what? He wants to merge into the Brahman effulgence. So merging into the Brahman effulgence, which is an aspect of the Lord, is better, or my own sense enjoyment is better? Which is a better goal?
Merging into Supreme.
Yes,
And
merging into the Supreme is better than wanting to gratify my own
Wait,
sense.
but Mataji,
Yes, Aditya.
how is it like just merging into the Brahman effulgence and like just sitting there doing nothing, right?
Yes, but his goal, see, his intention is to attain the Lord. No. Now his goal is to attain the Brahman effulgence. But that is one aspect of Krishna. At least his desire is that I want to attain the Lord. In demigod worshipper, his goal is my own sense gratification. He's thinking here about himself, how he can enjoy better. but at least an impersonalist wants to attain the Lord, an aspect of the Lord, but at least that's an aspect of the Lord. He's not thinking about himself. We are comparing only demigod worshipper with impersonalists. The comparison is only there. So between a demigod worshipper and an impersonalist is better. Is that clear, Varun?
This is
Aditya.
Aditya. Yeah, I'm
Aditya.
there.
Okay, so do you agree?
Yeah.
Okay, Harman, is that clear?
Yes.
Okay. So at least an impersonalist wants to attain the Lord, but a demigod worshipper, he is only making arrangements to again move from upgrade himself from a third class prison to a first class prison. So he still wants to remain in the material realm, but at least an impersonalist has a desire to come out of the prison. Now, after he's coming out of the prison, what is he attaining? The Brahman effulgence or the Paramatma or the Bhagavan realization. Now, that's a different subject matter. But between these two, one is wanting to enjoy still in the material world, and the other is trying to at least get out of the material world. So therefore, an impersonalist is better than a demigod worshipper. Now, coming to the third category, a devotee, a Vaishnava, here, his only desire is, I want to satisfy the Lord through service, through seva. So what he does, he uses everything in the service of the Lord. Whatever activity he does, it is only for pleasing the Lord. He's not thinking about his own sense gratification. Neither does he want to merge into the Brahman effulgence. He wants to realize the Lord as a person. So he is the top among the three. He is the topmost. Now you can compare impersonalist Brahmavadi with a Vaishnava. Now you can say that, oh, but he's just going to merge into the Brahman effulgence, and there he's going to get bored, and then again he has to fall down. Yeah. So now when you make that comparison, then you can say that Vaishnava is better than a Brahmavadi. But definitely Brahmavadis are better than the Bahuishwaravadis. Okay. Let's read this text.
Yes. A karma kandi deals with the matter for sense gratification. An impersonalist completely rejects matter, deals only with spirit. A devotee deals with with matter and uses it for the pleasure of the spirit.
So see, there are two things, material and spiritual. Anything that is not spiritual is material, and anything that is not material is spiritual. So what does a karma kandi do? He is dealing with matter, with material for his own sense gratification. So therefore, he's worshipping different demigods for different purposes. You can see the picture on the top right corner of your screen. Then an impersonalist, he rejects matter and he deals only with spirit. So we saw the example of how a Mayavad philosopher would not accept money. He rejects money, thinking that this money will put me in bondage. This money is Maya. So he completely rejects money. But a devotee, he deals with matter and uses it for the pleasure of the spirit. So he will accept money if somebody gives him a donation, but he will use it for the pleasure of the Lord. He will use it in the service of Krishna. So karma kandi deals only with matter, and impersonalist rejects matter, deals only with spirit, but a Vaishnava, a devotee, will deal with matter and use the matter for the pleasure of the Lord. This is the difference between the three.
Brahmavadi and Mayavadis are same, right?
No, there is a difference between Brahmavadi and Mayavadi. A Brahmavadi is not, what do you call it? A Brahmavadi's intention is, I want to merge into the Brahman effulgence. But a Mayavadi, a Mayavadi is offensive to the Supreme Lord because he thinks that we can become equal to God. That's not the thinking of a Brahmavadi. Brahmavadi never thinks that I want to be equal to God. A Mayavad philosopher, he's offensive to the Lord because he thinks that I can become equal to God. So Mayavadis are more offensive. The Brahmavadis are not offensive. Okay. Let's go to 26.
श्रोत्रादीनेन्द्रियाण्यन्ये संयमाग्निषु जुह्वति शब्दादीन् विषयानन्य इन्द्रियाग्निषु जुह्वति.
Translation. Some, the unadulterated brahmacharis, sacrifice the hearing process and the senses in the fire of mental control. And the other, the regulated householders, sacrifice the objects of the senses in the fire of the senses.
So two categories here Krishna is talking, brahmacharis and grihastas. What are the brahmacharis? Sacrificing the hearing process and the senses in the fire of mental control. So because the brahmacharis are not allowed to engage in any affairs with members of the opposite gender, they have to control their senses. So what are they sacrificing? They are sacrificing the hearing process and the senses in the fire of mental control. Because a brahmachari, he is a student and he's hearing. He's receiving knowledge from the spiritual master. No? So he's hearing and he has to control his senses. And so therefore that is his offering to the Lord, sense control. Then the grihastas. Now amongst in the entire varnashram system, the grihastas are the only ones who are allowed to unite with a member of the opposite gender. Nobody else is allowed to. Brahmachari, you cannot. Vanaprastha, sannyas, you cannot. So grihastas are the only one who are given the license to unite with a member of the opposite gender. But even within marriage, the union is not unrestricted, is not for my sense gratification as and when I want to enjoy my senses. No, even within the institution of marriage, there is regulation. It is regulated. Therefore, previously, the goal of this grihastha ashram was to have Krishna conscious children. Because when a grihastha unites to have Krishna conscious children, then the soul is getting the opportunity of getting a human birth where he can realize the goal of life and go back to Godhead. Okay, that is not possible in taking birth as an animal or a bird or a tree. So when a man and woman unite and they make sure that this is the last life, this is the last birth of that soul, then the soul is getting that opportunity. Therefore, there existed the Garbhadhana Samskara, which we have discussed before, no? That certain rituals would be performed. Then the man and woman would unite and they would attract a good soul in the womb of the mother. And this would ensure that the soul will have no more birth and death. Right now, what has replaced the Garbhadhana Samskara? The honeymoon culture. The honeymoon culture has replaced it. So therefore, what happens? There is no restriction. There is no regulation. They just unite at any time. We don't even know whether it's auspicious or inauspicious time, with what consciousness they are being united. So the children that are being born are not necessarily good souls. Sometimes we see, even among small children, they will be so violent in their behavior. Why? Because it's coming from the previous lifetime. That nature is there. That nature is coming from a previous lifetime. So when a man and woman unite under the influence of alcohol on a Saturday night, the consciousness of that child is going to be very different from the consciousness of a child who is conceived after doing the Garbhadhana Samskara, or a child who is conceived after both the man and woman have chanted some rounds of Hare Krishna mantra. Okay, if the man and woman each chant 64 rounds of Hare Krishna mantra on that day, 64 rounds.
Oh,
okay. On the day, then they would attract a very great devotee soul in the womb. Therefore, so here the two sacrifices are that of the brahmacharis and that of the grihastas. The grihastas, what are they sacrificing? The objects of the senses in the fire of the senses. So being within the grihastha ashram, where every facility is given to you to unite, still there is a regulation. So that is what is the sacrifice of a grihastha. Okay. So here we see how only the grihastas are allowed to unite amongst the four varnas. The four ashramas. 27.
Sarvani indriya karmani prana karmani chapare atma sanyama yogagnam जुह्वति ज्ञानदीपिते.
Translation. Others who are interested in achieving self-realization through control of the mind and senses offer the functions of all the senses and of the life breath as oblation into the fire of the controlled mind.
So here Krishna is talking about the Ashtanga Yoga system or the Patanjali Yoga. It's called Patanjali Yoga after the one who institutionalized or one who brought this, or the eightfold yoga system, no, Ashtanga Yoga. So the Ashtanga yogis or the Dhyana yogis, they achieve self-realization through control of the mind and senses, offer the functions of all the senses and of the life breath as oblations into the fire of the control mind. So what are they offering? They are offering the functions of the senses. They're offering their breathing, their breath control. That is, they're offering into the fire of the control mind. So imagine these, remember these are different kinds of yagyas, which Krishna is talking about in this section. So let's try to understand a little bit more about the Ashtanga Yoga system. Let's read this.
The path of the classical yoga system described in the Vedic tradition is long and severe. Conceived by the ancient sage Patanjali, that system is called Ashtanga Yoga or the Eightfold Yoga System. It is a scientific, psychic method to gradually raise the consciousness to higher levels of awareness, culminating in samadhi. The eight progressive steps of the Ashtanga Yoga system are yama, niyama, asana, pranayama, pratyahara, dharana, dhyana, and samadhi.
So the word Ashta means eight, Anga means limbs. So there are 8 limbs or 8 steps in the Ashtanga Yoga system: Yama, Niyama, Asana, Pranayama, Pratyahara, Dharana, Dhyana, and Samadhi. So what is done is, through this, when one reaches the last stage of Samadhi, then the practitioner raises his awareness, his consciousness from a lower level to a higher level. And then once it goes to the highest level, then when he attains perfection, the head bursts and the soul escapes to the top of the head. Let us see a little bit about these 8 steps.
Yama. The dance involves avoiding things that hinder attainment of the goal, like illicit sex, TV, movies, intoxication, foods such as meat, fish, and eggs. Niyama. The dos.
The do's.
Dos? The do's. It refers to the beneficial activities, daily meditations, rituals, exercise one has to perform. Asana, Hatha Yoga, prepares the body to stay in different postures for long periods. The result is a healthy, slim body, but the real purpose is to gradually train the body to stay in the same position for hours, days, and eventually even months and years, until one can sit in the lotus position for hours and days without shifting and being uncomfortable. One cannot, for example, successfully raise the Kundalini pranayama, lowering the breathing cycle. It prolongs one's life, but the real aim is to be able to sit in trance and meditate. First on the prana, life airs, and chakras, energy centers, then on the inner self, and finally on the super soul. By gradually extending the breathing cycle, one can subdue the actions of the body and mind. When the mind becomes still, one can turn it from being engaged in the external world to being focused within.
So Yama and Niyama, the don'ts and the do's, what we should not do, and Niyama, what we should do. Then Asana is the posture of the body. So one has to sit in a particular posture. Everything should be in a straight line, your back, your neck, everything in a straight line. And that is the ideal posture um, for proceeding to the next step. And pranayama is all about controlling the breathing. Here, the breathing is not regular, but gradually the breathing gets less and less and less, and it prolongs one's life. So, how can lowering the breathing prolong one's life?
Because we have like a certain amount of breaths.
Yes, the number of breaths we take determines our, it's like, okay, so many quadrillion millions of breath. So when that number of breaths are done, then death occurs. So when we breathe slowly, then we are going to live for a longer period of time in terms of days or years. But when the breathing is faster, then the days or years of our life is that much less. That's why the yogis previously, when they would, those who meditated, because their breathing was slow, part of this Ashtanga yoga is that the breathing is regulated, no? So because the breathing is slow, then they used to live for longer number of years. But now in Kali Yoga, we do, what kind of exercises do? We do those kind of exercises which makes us breathe heavier, faster. So actually we are reducing the number of years that we are going to live, or months or days, whatever it is. Okay. Let's see the other
Wait.
4 parts.
Mataji, I have a question.
Yes.
If you do swimming, does that mean like you're breathing too much?
So that depends. If you have breath control, so people, I don't know much about swimming, but if you are able to hold your breath for a long period of time underwater, but when you come out, if you're breathing faster, then it will have to be seen. How much did you control underwater and how much faster are you breathing when you're out?
Okay, Mataji, thank you.
Okay,
Pratyahara.
let's continue.
Okay. Pratyahara. The senses are withdrawn from all external engagements. The self shifts awareness from the physical world to the inner world of the mind. The senses are forced to retract from the physical world and focus on the inner psychic world. Dharana. Dharana. Through further hard practice, yogis able to maintain the focus of their consciousness progress to the stage of dharana, full fixation on the inner subtle world of the mind. All sensual engagements have ceased, and the yogi perceives only the mind. There is no perception of sound, touch, form, taste, or smell, and thus no awareness of the external world. Only when one reaches the dharana state does dhyana meditation arise. Dhyana. Now the yogi begins to meditate and discovers the soul. The soul finally observes its own self as an illuminating particle of consciousness within the heart. Understanding that this is the real self, the mature yogi also sees the super soul. Meditation does not take place before one can completely cease all external sensual engagements and focus on the consciousness on the self. Only then can one progress to the state of dhyana or meditation. Samadhi, the yogi has now reached the state called samadhi, the final goal of meditation, and is ready to leave the body through the process sometimes called raising the kundalani. The yogi pushes the soul out through the top of the skull and goes wherever the consciousness is fixed at that moment. The energy thus released is so immense that the body is sometimes consumed by fire.
So pratyahara, dharana, dhyana, and ultimately samadhi. Completely withdrawing from the externals, concentrating on your internals, and then internally raising the kundalini from a lower to a higher state. What kind of, what aspect of the Supreme Lord do they realize? Do they realize Brahman, Paramatma, or Bhagavan?
Paramatma.
Paramatma. From where did you get that? Can you show us the text? Where is the point mentioned here?
Super soul.
Yes, the mature in
Dhyana.
point 7, line 3, the mature
Dhyana.
yogi sees the super soul. So he realizes the Paramatma. And ultimately in Samadhi, he raises the consciousness or the Kundalini, and then the body bursts. And therefore, because of the force or the energy released, the body is the body. What do you call it? The body is on fire. Which character from the Mahabharata passed away like this?
No, I don't.
Which character in the Mahabharata, his body was set on, I mean, his body caught fire when he passed away?
Dhritarashtra.
Dhritarashtra, yes, exactly, Dhritarashtra. So after the Mahabharata war, Dhritarashtra continued to live in Hastinapur along with Yudhishthir. And eventually Vidura comes to him one day and tells him that, wake up, what are you doing? It's you have to now give up all these opulences, the kingdom, and you have to concentrate on realizing the Lord. So thanks to Vidura's advice, Dhritarashtra then leaves the kingdom along with Gandhari, and then he sits down to meditate. He follows this Ashtanga yoga process, and then his skull bursts, his body is on fire, and the soul escapes from the top of the body. So somebody who's not practicing Ashtanga yoga, when he dies, when he passes away, then where does the soul escape from?
Ooh.
From the Navadwar, no?
From the
nine gates.
Navadwaras or the 9 gates. Yes. What are the 9 gates of the human body?
Ear, mouth, nose.
So 2 openings of the ears, 2 nostrils, 4 mouth, 5. Then
Eyes.
Hmm?
2 eyes.
the 2
Two
eyes,
eyes.
7.
And
2
the
more.
genital.
The genital and the anus. So these are the 9 gates of the human body. That's why the body is called as a Navadwara Pura, or the city of 9 gates. And from which hole the soul leaves the body also determines if the person is going for a higher destination or a lower destination. If he leaves from one of the upper holes, then he's going for heading for a higher destination. And if he's going from the lower holes, then he's heading for a lower destination. So if we observe a person who has passed away, or when we observe the dead body, then one will be able to say from which hole has the body left. If a person has passed urine or stool at the time of death, then that means the soul has left from the lower holes. If he passes away with the eyes open, then he has passed away, the soul has left from the eyes. If there is some wax in the ears, sometimes you'll see in dead bodies there is some wax coming out of the ears. That means that the soul has left from the ears. If there is some mucus coming out from the nose at the time of death, then he has passed away. The soul has left from the nose. And if his mouth is open at the time of death, that means the soul is leaving from the mouth. Okay. Let's read this.
Only when one has reached the state of samadhi, one can begin to raise the kundalani. The yogi pushes the life air's prana from the Mula chakra, the lowest chakra, gradually up through the other chakras of the body until it reaches the heart chakra. From its seat there, the soul rises to the highest chakra at the top of the head, pushing the prana up through the different chakras constitutes a kundalini rising. As the kundalini is rising, the pressure inside the body becomes so great that the yogi must use the mastered asana and pranayama techniques to block all the holes in body lest the soul should escape through any one of them. The Vedic literature calls the body the city of 9 gates: anus, genitals, mouth, 2 nostrils, 2 ear holes, and 2 eyes. This type of yoga is extremely difficult to practice in the modern age. The yogis of yore would go to the forest to practice Ashtanga yoga and leave their bodies.
So this yoga is extremely difficult to practice in the modern age. As we saw from the description itself, actually it's very difficult to even understand exactly what is happening here. So imagine practicing it. It's very, very hard to do this, especially in Kali Yoga. What Kali Yoga? Even Arjuna, who belonged to Dwapar Yoga, he tells Krishna when Krishna describes to him in detail, chapter 6 is titled Dhyana Yoga, and the entire chapter is dedicated to this subject matter. And then at the end of it, Arjuna tells Krishna that I can control my mind. I'm sorry, he says that I can control the wind, but I cannot control my mind. So that's how difficult it is. Even Arjuna, an elevated person like Arjuna, he says that he cannot practice this yoga system. So where do we stand a chance? Another thing about this Ashtanga yoga is, if we do 7 to perfection, but for some reason in the 8th we fail, then whatever we have done up till 7, that also gets wasted. So unless we don't do all 8 successfully, then whatever we have done so far is also gone, is lost. But when we follow the bhakti yoga process, then whatever little we do, we know that we carry on from where we left off in the previous lifetime. And coming to living a long life and controlling the senses in Dhyana Yoga, the same thing can be attained even in Bhakti Yoga. In Bhakti Yoga also we can control the senses. We don't have to go to the forest and sit down in a particular asana and try to disconnect from the externals. We don't have to do all that. Pratyahara, dharana, we don't have to do all this to control our senses. We can control our senses. How does a Bhakti yogi control the senses? By using the senses in Krishna conscious activities, by dovetailing the activities in Krishna conscious activities. That's how a person, a practitioner of Bhakti Yoga can control his senses. And living a long life. How can a practitioner of Bhakti Yoga process live a long life?
Chanting?
Does chanting extend the lifespan?
No. Doing exercise?
Eating Krishna.
But doing exercise is not a part of Bhakti Yoga. I mean, it's good, a Bhakti Yoga he should do or she should do. But just by following Bhakti Yoga, how we are leading, how are we extending our life?
Eating healthy prasad.
Okay, but I can prepare very unhealthy prasad also, with lots of oil and lots of ghee. Offer it to the Lord. That's also prasad. Even French fries is prasad, but that's not healthy. Then
Regulated breathing.
no, but regulated breathing is not a part of Bhakti Yoga process.
Wait, you have to follow the regulative principles. You have to do what Krishna says and like all that.
So following the regulative principles of no meat eating, no intoxication, no illicit sex, and no gambling extends the lifespan?
No meat eating, yes, because meat is unhealthy.
Okay, but even a lot of vegetarian food can be unhealthy, no?
So when we do Bhakti Yoga, we eventually reach to spiritual kingdom and we live eternal. So we live long.
Exactly, that's the point. We live long because we live eternally. Bhakti Yoga directly takes us to the spiritual realm in fast mode, and we are eternally living there. So we have extended our lifespan. Exactly, Shreya. Okay, very nice. Let's go to 28.
Dravya yajnastapo yajna yoga yajnastatha pare swadhyaya jnana yajnascha yatayas samshita vrataha.
Translation. Having accepted strict vows, some become enlightened by sacrificing their possessions, and others by performing severe austerities. By practicing the yoga of the Eightfold Mysticism, or by the study of Vedas, or by studying the Vedas to advance in transcendental knowledge.
So here there are 4 sacrifices that Krishna has mentioned. One is sacrificing of the possessions, dravya yagyas. Other is tapo yagya, or performing severe austerities. 3 is again practicing the Ashtanga yoga system. And 4 is the Jnana yoga, or studying of the Vedas. So by accepting strict vows, some become enlightened by sacrificing their possessions. So by giving charity, by sacrificing their possessions, now that is also a sacrifice, right? They are putting what is their offering? Their material possessions. Then others, they are performing severe austerities, that is tapo yagya or tapasya. For example, if somebody is following Chaturmasya, then there are restrictions for 4 months. For 1 whole month, you don't eat one particular kind of foodstuff. Second month, again, you don't eat a particular kind of foodstuff. So 1 month is no green leafy vegetables. No, 1 month is no milk. 1 month is no yogurt. 1 month is no urad dal, like that. So for 4 months, that tapasya they have to follow. Or sleep on the floor, sleep on a hard flooring. So these are all there. So what are they sacrificing here? They are sacrificing their comforts. In tapa, when one does austerities, tapasya, they are sacrificing their comforts. Then next is practicing of the eightfold yoga, the yoga of the eightfold mysticism. So what do they get? What does a practitioner of the Ashtanga yoga get as a side benefit when he's doing Ashtanga yoga? Automatically he develops what is called as mystic powers or mysticism. So therefore you can see some yogis, they will be able to walk on water. These are all siddhis or mystic powers that they develop as a side benefit. Or they can transport themselves from one place to another place very quickly. They don't have to take locomotion or travel by car or something like that. They can transport themselves from place A to place B, just like that. So they develop mystic powers. Then the last category, studying of the Vedas. So what are they sacrificing here? People who are, that is Swadhyaya Jnana Yagya. What are they sacrificing? They are sacrificing their intelligence to study the Vedas. So these are the 4 categories that Krishna mentions over here. So again, a devotee does not have to necessarily go through all these systems to attain perfection. Bhakti yoga is very, very simple compared to all these other processes, and we get the same benefit. So here is a summary of the 4 types of yagyas.
1. Sacrificing possessions, charity. 2. Performing severe austerities. 3. Practicing the yoga of eightfold mysticism. And 4. Studying the Vedas.
So as I said previously, a practitioner of the Bhakti yoga process does not have to go through all these things. What he depends on is the mercy of the spiritual master and mercy of Krishna. In all these processes that we have seen so far, the practitioner is depending on his own endeavor for success, on his own endeavor. So even that eightfold yoga system, he's depending on his own endeavor. But a person who's following Bhakti yoga, he depends on the mercy of the Lord. So sometimes in colleges, you have a separate quota for those students who have not got good grades, right? So they call them mercy quota. And the other, when students get in through on the strength of their grades, on the strength of their merits, that is called as merit quota. So we in Kali Yoga, it's very hard to have some merits because we commit so many sinful activities unknowingly that is very, very difficult to attain success without mercy. So we depend on the Lord's mercy. We cannot depend on our own merits. So we hope to get through to the spiritual realm through the mercy quota, not through the merit quota. There's okay, before we get there, a devotee is always begging the Lord for his mercy. And there's a nice quote by His Holiness Radhana Swami Maharaj. He says, 2 things are required to attain Krishna's mercy. What is it? The intervention of a devotee and our own sincerity. So a pure devotee is like a touchstone, you know. So anybody who, like for example, anybody who comes in touch with Narada Muni, he becomes a devotee. So anybody who comes in touch with a pure devotee, he also becomes a devotee. So therefore, to attain Krishna's mercy, we need first of all a devotee in our life, and the other is our own endeavor, our own sincerity. If we are sincere and we have devotee association, then we can get Krishna's mercy. Because Krishna does not refuse the petition of his devotee. He is Bhakta Vatsala. So if a pure devotee of the Lord desires to give Krishna consciousness or desires to give the Lord's mercy to somebody else, then Krishna will definitely give him the mercy, because Krishna will not deny his own devotee. So there is, okay, so here, the same example that we have seen before. Which of the 2 babies is more secure, the baby monkey or the kitten?
The kitten.
The kitten.
Okay.
Why? Because
The monkey is on his own force,
yes,
and the kitten is taken care by the cat.
yes. So because the mother cat is taking care of the kitten, there are how much chances is there that the mother cat is going to drop her baby, and on the other side, the baby monkey is holding on to the mother on its own strength. So that is merit quota. There are more chances of the baby monkey falling because he's depending on his own strength, and own strength he does not have. He's very tiny and he hardly has any strength, right? So there's every chance that he will fall down. But the baby kitten is not depending on its own strength. He is just depending upon the mercy of its mother. So therefore, we also, a devotee, a Vaishnava, a Bhakta, depends upon the mercy of the Lord. So here, there is no chance of failure. In Bhakti Yoga process, there is no chance of failure. Even if we do not attain perfection at the end of this lifetime, whatever we have done, we continue from where we left off in the next lifetime. So there is nothing to lose. But in the other processes, whatever we do, because we are trying to do it on our own strength, then whatever we do, if we don't attain full success, then what we have done, all that is also lost. This is a very nice pastime from Srila Prabhupada's lifetime. Let's read this.
At the end of one lecture, Srila Prabhupada told the devotees, "If you become 90% Krishna conscious, you will go back home, back to Godhead." Looking out into his audience, he saw that the devotees looked crestfallen. So then he said, "If you become 80% Krishna conscious, you will go back home, back to Godhead." Still, the devotees expressed doubt that they will become even 80% Krishna conscious. So then Srila Prabhupada said, "Okay, 70%." And then the devotees responded with a big jai. But as Srila Prabhupada was returning to his quarters, another devotee expressed concern and that he would not be able to become even 70% Krishna conscious. So then Prabhupada said, "Okay, you just hold on to my dhoti. I have the key to the back door."
So Prabhupada, again, we have to depend upon the mercy of the spiritual master. He can take us through the back door even if we are lacking the merits. Same reason, Krishna will not refuse the sincere desire of his pure devotees. By the mercy of Krishna, we get a guru, and by the mercy of the guru, we get Krishna. That's how it works. Okay, 29.
Apane juhvati pranam prane panam tatha pare pranapanagati ruddhva pranayama parayana apare niyataharaha pranan praneshu juhvati.
Translation. Still others, who are inclined to the process of breath restraint to remain in trance, practice by offering the movement of outgoing breath into the incoming, and the incoming breath into the outgoing, and thus at last remain in trance, stopping all breathing. Others, curtailing the eating process, offer the outgoing breath into itself as a sacrifice.
So here again, Krishna is talking about the Hatha Yoga process, where there is the practitioner, he controls the different kinds of air in the body. So there are different kinds of airs, incoming, outgoing, and several others. I don't know the details so much. Thank God that we don't have to do this. It's too complex and next to impossible. I don't know how many people can successfully do this. Anyway, so this is talking about breath control, how we control the incoming breath into the outgoing breath into the incoming, and finally stop all breathing. So that is the offering. The breath is the offering that is made by the practitioner. Let's summarize.
Yeah. Text 4.25 to 4.29 common theme varieties of sacrifices which lead to transcendental knowledge are explained. 1. Worship of Devatas, Sakarma, Karma Yoga 4.25. 2. Sacrifices into Brahman 4.25. 3. Restraining the senses in the fire of mental control. Naishak, uh, Naish, Naishataki Brahmacharis 4.26, remaining indifferent to the action of the senses, objects of senses in the fire of the senses, regulated grastas 4.26, Ashtanga Yoga, restraining the senses of and pranas 4.27, offers function of all the senses and of the life breath as oblations into the fire of the controlled mind, goal merging into existence of absolute. 6. Dra- Dravyama Yajna, charity 4.28. Example charitable institutions, old age homes, etc. 7. Tapomaya Yajna, austerity, practice of severe vows. Example Katurmyasa 4.28. Swadhyaya Yagya, study of scriptures, Upanishads and Vedanta Sutras, or the Sakya philosophy 4.28, Hatha and Pranayam, the controlling of breath 4.29, 9 restraining of eating 4.29.
Okay, let's do 30.
सर्वेऽप्येते यज्ञविदो यज्ञक्षपितकल्मषाः यज्ञशिष्टामृतभुजो यान्ति ब्रह्म सनातनम् न
Translation. All these performers who know the meaning of sacrifice become cleansed of sinful reactions, and having tasted the nectar of the results of sacrifices, they advance towards the supreme eternal atmosphere.
So again, Krishna is talking about the result of doing these sacrifices, doing these yagyas. What is the purpose of doing all these yagyas? Ultimately, they will advance towards the supreme eternal atmosphere. So of course, not all sacrifices, not all yagyas, not all these austerities are going to lead towards the goal at the same speed. Some will take less time, some will take more time. We saw that Vasna Krishna says, as they surrender unto me, I reward them accordingly. So not all of them have the same speed or lead to liberation to the same degree. It varies.
अयं लोकोऽस्त्य यज्ञस्य कुतोऽन्यः कुरु सत्तमा.
Translation. Oh, the best of the Kuru dynasty, without sacrifice, one can never live happily on this planet or in this life. What then of the next?
So Krishna is saying that unless we don't sacrifice, unless we don't do yagyas, unless we don't do some activity for the Lord, then we cannot live happily on this planet. So Prabhupada explains in the purport how this loop of material entanglement works. If we don't do activities in knowledge, then we are doing it in ignorance. And when we do activities in ignorance, it will lead to sinful life. Why? Because the knowledge is lacking. So sometimes we may think that what I am doing is not sinful. Somebody may lack transcendental knowledge and he may think that he is doing something good. But because he lacks the correct knowledge, actually he is only doing sinful activities. For example, somebody may want to feed the poor people, or he wants to open an orphanage. But when he's feeding the poor people, or he's attending to the children of the orphanage or an old age home or something like that, he's feeding the children meat. So he thinks that I'm helping the hungry and poor children. But because he lacks transcendental knowledge, he is only increasing, or he's only engaging in sinful activities. And the more he engages in sinful activities, the deeper and deeper he is dragging himself into the material existence. And one, when is deeply rooted in this material existence, then again that is only leading to ignorance. So this is a cycle that is very, very hard to break. It continues on and on and on. The only loophole to come out of this is the human body. In only the human life, we can break this ignorance, because only in human life we can gain transcendental knowledge. In the body of a dog, cat, tree, fish, we cannot gain transcendental knowledge. Only in the human life that is possible. So to come out of this loop, we need transcendental knowledge. And for the transcendental knowledge, we need human life. And in human life, from where are we going to get the transcendental knowledge? From a bona fide spiritual master. So Krishna is actually leading us now to a very, 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 very important verse that he's going to speak soon. That we will see in the next class. But for now, let's finish this section. Let's read this.
C. Role of Vedas to help us escape. Vedas gives us a chance for escape by pointing out dharma, artha, kama, and moksha. Dharma give artha, path of religion or different kinds of sacrifices. Automatically solves our economical problems by yagya. We can get enough food, milk, etc. After artha comes kama, when the body is fully satisfied. Next stage is to satisfy the senses. Therefore, Vedas prescribes sacred marriage for regulated sense gratification. Gradually, one is elevated to the platform of moksha. All this starts from performance of yagya. Therefore, yagya is very important for happiness. D. Life of Krishna consciousness, only solution to all problems because there is higher level of happiness.
So this verse, 31 and 32 talk about, 32 we'll see now, but 31 and 32 talk about the role of the Vedas. So the Vedas have 4 subject matters. What are they? Dharma, Artha, Kama, and Moksha. What is Dharma? Religiosity, but material religiosity. Artha is economic development. Kama is sense gratification, and Moksha is liberation. So how does this work? When one does dharma or one does religiosity, then automatically it leads to economic development. How we saw, no, how grains depend on rains, and for rains we have to do yagyas. So those yagyas are part of our religiosity or dharma. So when we do dharma, yagyas, there is rain, and from the rain we get grains. So there is surplus, and therefore we can solve our economical problems. So dharma leads to artha. So now that we have solved our economic problems and we have some surplus, we have some opulence, then automatically that leads to kama, to sense gratification, because now we have a lot of money or a lot of opulence. Then now we want to have a nice lavish house. We want to have a nice bed on which we can sleep. We want to eat nice kinds of food stuff, enjoy different kinds of foodstuffs in different restaurants maybe. So artha, when there is economic development, it leads to kama, the desire for sense gratification. But what happens when we are engaging ourselves in sense gratification? Slowly, slowly, we realize that we really cannot enjoy for a long time. Let's say somebody is enjoying to eat different kinds of food stuff. Very soon he realizes that he cannot really eat because now he has grown old. He doesn't have teeth, or his health, maybe he's diabetic and health or because of some other health issue, he cannot enjoy the food stuff that he likes to eat. So then what happens after karma? Now he realizes that he can. So now he's thinking, oh, how can I enjoy eternally? How can I enjoy without having these restrictions, without having to grow old, without having to have this disease? Then that leads him to the point of liberation. So dharma, artha, kama, moksha. Dharma leads to artha, artha leads to kama, kama leads to moksha. This is how the Vedas help us to escape that cycle.
एवं बहुविधा यज्ञा वितता ब्रह्मणो मुखे कर्मजान् विद्धितान् सर्वान् एवं ज्ञात्वा विमोक्षसे.
Translation. All these different types of sacrifice are approved by the Vedas, and all of them are born of different types of work. Knowing them as such, you will become liberated.
So all these different types of sacrifice that Krishna has mentioned in this section, they are all approved of by the Vedas. So it's very, very important that when we do any kind of austerity, then it should be austerity that is approved by the Vedas. Otherwise, it will not have any spiritual benefit. Just as how last time we were talking about Ekadasi. So Ekadasi fasting is once every 15 days. And as we mentioned, the Japanese Nobel Prize winner, he said that if you fast once in 15 days for 36 hours, then the old cells are eaten by the good cells in the body. But he does not mention which day of those 15 days one has to fast, right? Because he does not know the Vedas. But the Vedas say that once in 15 days, that you have to choose the 11th day of the lunar calendar. So 11th day of the waxing moon and the 11th day from the waning moon, that is the 11th day, that is called as Ekadasi. And that's the day when this fasting has to be done. So this, when we do any kind of austerity, it should be on that day or in that way, which is approved by the Vedas. If not, then it will not give us any spiritual benefit.
श्रेयान् द्रव्यमयाद् यज्ञाः ज्ञानयज्ञः परन्तप सर्वं कर्माखिलं पार्थ ज्ञाने परिसमाप्यते.
Translation. O chastiser of the enemy, the sacrifice performed in knowledge is better than the mere sacrifice of material possession. After all, O son of Pratha, all sacrifices of work culminate in transcendental knowledge.
So at the end of the day, all the sacrifices, they end in transcendental knowledge. And what Krishna is saying here, sacrifice performed in knowledge is better than the mere sacrifice of material possessions. So just by sacrificing something, but without knowledge, is not going to lead us to our goal. But whenever we do any activity or any kind of sacrifice we do, we have to do it in knowledge, perform it in knowledge. So when we do charity, we do it with knowledge. When we do austerity, we do it in the proper knowledge. Any kind of tapasya, anything that any sacrifice that we do, it has to be performed in knowledge. Because when we do it without knowledge, then it is not going to bring us any spiritual benefit. With that, we come to the end of this section. We'll continue with the last section and finish the chapter, Krishna willing, Saturday. Srila Prabhupada ki Jai.
Yeah.
Jay.
So do we have any questions from today's class?
Let me check.
Mataji, can we go back to the table, the slide which had the table of demigod, the impersonal?
Paravadi and Brahmavadi. That one?
Yes, yes.
Yeah, that one. I have a question in that for the demigod. So in 3.11, we read about demigods, no? Like who are they? The definition of demigod.
3.11.
Yeah, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay, 1 second. Let me go there.
So the demigods are the administrators who how it was explained in 3.11 and 3.12, they are the empowered administrators of material affairs, and then they are like assistants in the innumerable assistants in different parts of body of Supreme Personality of Godhead. So indirectly they are helping us to reach the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So why here we are considering them less, the worshipper of a demigod less superior to a impersonalist?
Okay, so first of all, we have to understand that the beginning section of the Vedas deals with Karma Kanda. So Karma Kanda is all about how I can fulfill my material desires, but under the shelter of the Shastra, not by doing sinful activities. So, for example, if I want a promotion in my job, then I can worship a demigod, or I can do some sacrifice to please the demigod and get my promotion. But that is not bhakti. That's the point we are trying to make. Demigod worshippers, they are not approaching the demigod for out of devotion. They are approaching the demigod for getting something for their own sense gratification. It's the consciousness of the worshipper that we are talking about. Now, that is better than me doing some, let's say I can also get my promotion by playing some politics in the office, and by manipulating my boss or by manipulating my seniors. So better than that is worshipping the demigods. But better than worshipping the demigods is, so when we worship the demigods, again, we are getting some material benediction. The material benediction, the benedictions given by the demigods are temporary because the demigods themselves are temporary. So the goal is to remain within the prison house. But when somebody worships the Brahma Jyoti, then at least he's trying to come out of the prison house. That's why that is the most superior. So if you worship the demigod for a spiritual benefit, then that is fine. Then you're doing good. Like, for example, if I worship Lord Ganesh, now Lord Ganesh is Vignaharta, and I pray to Lord Ganesh, please remove the obstacles coming in the way of my spiritual advancement. Now that is a spiritual prayer for my spiritual benefit. But the entire Karmakanda section talks about worshipping different demigods within the Shastric injunctions, but for our own material benefits. And that is what is not at the highest rung of the ladder. The highest rung of the ladder is Anya Abhilashita Shunyam. I have no desire for my own sense gratification. Zero. Anya Abhilashita Shunyam. Zero. Only desire is to satisfy the Lord. But all this demigod worship is for own sense gratificatory activities. Like as I said, Tuesdays I was sent to worship Goddess Durga, but I was not going to the Durga temple out of devotion for her. I was going there because my mom sent me to get a good husband. So once I got married, then I never went back and did that to her. I never worshipped Durga. So I have gone. So where is the devotion? I didn't go there out of devotion for Goddess Durga. I went there because I wanted something in return. So same thing, if somebody is worshipping so that the son can get a medical seat in a medical college, or somebody is worshipping so that he can crack a business deal, it's for our own sense gratification. So that's why when people want wealth, they worship Goddess Lakshmi. Before an exam, the student will go and worship Goddess Saraswati, right? They are different in charge of different departments, and therefore they are worshipping different demigods. When Ravan worshipped Brahma, he got boons from Brahma. When Hiranyakashipu worshipped Brahma and got those boons, did Hiranyakashipu worship Lord Brahma out of devotion? No, there was no devotion. He had no devotion for Lord Brahma. Hiranyakashipu worshipped Lord Brahma because he wanted those boons from Lord Brahma.
So, yes, okay, I understand. Then why so much emphasis is given in the verse, in the chapter 3, verse 11, for the worship of demigods?
Yeah, that is to, okay. Let me share the screen. Here, the demigods being pleased by sacrifices will also please you, and thus by cooperation between men and demigods, prosperity will reign for all. So here, see, if you see verse 10, Krishna is saying that in the beginning of creation, the Lord has sent forth creatures along with sacrifices and blessed them by saying, be thou happy by this yagya. So what Krishna is saying here is that at the beginning of creation, He has sent forth the living entities, and he has also given us the method by which we can be happy. It's not that he has thrown us in the material world and now go and suffer. He has given us the system by which we can get our material necessities fulfilled under the Shastric umbrella. But Krishna is not saying that this is the highest truth. He's just saying that, okay, I have sent you in the material world, I have sent forth living entities, and along with that, I have also sent you the process by which your needs will be taken care of. Like just as how a father sends a son to a boarding school, at the same time, he takes care of the son's necessities. But that doesn't mean that it's the highest truth. Krishna, he takes us from a lower to a higher level. Gradually, he takes us higher and higher. But here, the point Krishna is making here is that at the time of creation, I created living entities, I created the material world, and I also created the system by which your necessities will be fulfilled. But then he also goes on to say that when the demigods are satisfied by the performance of yagyas, they provide the necessities, but eventually that is provided by Krishna only. Does he say that in chapter 3 or no?
Yeah.
Yeah, so eventually it is coming from Krishna. And it's very
Okay.
different when we worship the demigods for our necessities, and compared to when we worship the demigods for sense gratificatory activities, because to that there is no end. Right? We
Yeah,
saw how an advanced devotee, he wants only the bare necessities of life. In today's class, we saw only the bare necessities. Like we gave the example of the nut wanting some oiling. That's the bare necessity of the nut to remain attached to the machine. So for your bare necessities, worshipping for your bare necessities, that also is not necessary to worship the demigods, because eventually it is coming from Krishna. That's a higher truth.
Okay,
So when we
Mataji.
worship the demigods, it's not vi karma, but it is not a karma either. It is karma. Vi
Okay.
karma is the lowest. Higher than that is karma. So if at least we should do karma instead of doing vi karma. But higher than karma, the higher truth than karma is a karma. So worship of demigods for our sense gratificatory is not vi karma, but it is not even a karma. It is karma category. It's the in-between category. Like for my promotion, I don't play politics. I worship the demigods. So that's an in-between. But higher than that is I worship Krishna because I don't even want my promotion. I'm just happy with what Krishna sends me. That's a higher truth.
Okay, Mataji. Thank you.
What else do we have to discuss?
Then also doing that, you know, how people do manta, like if I achieve this, then I'll do this. That is also like wrong, right?
Yes,
Like,
yes. Of course, if I achieve this, I will do this. So what is that this? Is that this devotion to Krishna? Or is that this my own sense gratification?
it's own sense gratification because you are
Yeah.
doing it with fear, right? Like,
Yes. So it's the consciousness that counts.
But then 90% of Indians in Hindu Indians in India follow a wrong path.
Yes, because they lack transcendental knowledge. How many of them have read the Gita? How many of them have understood the Gita? And how many of them have applied the principles of the Gita? It's a very negligible percentage.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, Harman says probably about 5%.
Maybe less.
Yeah, actually, there is no statistic. We cannot verify this. There is no such statistic. And if we try to give it a percentage, then it's like we are speculating, because how will we come to that statistic? But yes, it's a very, very negligible, small percentage. But Krishna also says now, that later we will see that was out of millions of people, one may come to knowledge. And out of millions of people who come to knowledge, one may surrender unto me. That verse is there later. We will see that later.
Okay. Okay. When is the next Ekadasi?
Let's check.
And check also the lunar calendar. The 11th day.
5th July in Ekadas in Chile. Sorry, in Chile it's on the 5th of July.
Okay. Monday.
Yes, it's a Monday.
Yes. Okay. Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Anything else we need to discuss?
No, too much information we need to process.
Yes. So now you have enough to contemplate on for the week.
Yes. Thank
Shrinath,
you, Hare
I have a
Krishna.
question.
Yes, Naresh.
If Ravan was so bad and not a correct person, then why at the death time did Sri Ramchandra send Lakshman to get knowledge from him?
He
When
sent Lakshman to get knowledge from him? I don't know of that pastime.
when Lakshman being Balram,
No, I have never read that Ram sent Lakshman to get knowledge from Ravan. I have to look up the Veda base and read that section. When was this? Before the war?
after when Ravan was dying, no?
When he was on his deathbed?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm not sure about that. I have never read it. I will look it up and see if there is more information. Does
Maybe because he
anybody
was,
else know about it?
Maybe because he was well versed in the 4 Vedas. That is why that could be a
Okay.
reason.
I cannot comment on this because I don't know. I've never read. I will try to find the answer. What
Okay.
else? Anything else? All right then. Take care, all of you. Have a nice week. See you
Hare
next
Krishna.
Saturday.
Yeah.
Hare
Hare
Krishna.
Krishna. Thank you.
Hare Krishna.
Okay, Mataji.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Hare Krishna.
Hare
Hare
Krishna.
Krishna.
So, but when I had gone with Shraddha,